Each and every year, it's the best show on television, and the trailer just dropped, coming this September. Well, you're going to get Kansas City and you're going to get Philadelphia in a Super Bowl rematch. That's week 2, and KC hoping that it's better than 40-22. Eagles, it's part of their schedule that represents the 4th most difficult by strength of schedule of opponents' win percentage a season ago, but built for the task. Philadelphia, the 4th hardest. Back with the Mac as Charles Davis joins our conversation as well to explore those hardest schedules the NFL has doled out. I don't know how you get dragged for 18 weeks and end up with the hardest schedule, but such is the life of the New York Giants, and I just work here. What does that gauntlet, Mac, mean for this quarterback, whoever it's going to be, for this head coach, and for this general manager, with all hanging in the balance in New York?
Adversity. They're going to face adversity to start off the season. And that says a lot for a team that only won 3 games in 2024. But if you look at the gauntlet of a schedule the Giants will have to face, it feels like they won the entire Super Bowl a year ago. And you talk about a new regime in terms of some of the personnel that they added. Regardless, they're going to have a new quarterback from what we saw in 2024. They added some new pieces on the offensive side and the defensive side. But Charles, to get the gauntlet going like this, they're going to be battle tested. And it's up to Bryant to keep his locker room together, not to mention the fan base, because if they're not careful, they can be 0-4 before they get to the 5th game against the New Orleans Saints. And that's not the ideal start for an organization that has winning aspirations. Regardless of what has happened in the past, this is the organization that has been built on winning and being competitive. But to start their season off, week 1 is very, very important, because that's the week of unknowns. If they can find a way to slip up and beat a team in which we will probably say would be the favorites and the Commanders, then things can change. But that is the best opportunity for them to kind of get this thing going in the right direction.
Send a message, shot over the bow. CD, how do you reconcile with what we see in front of the Giants right now?
Well, you know, B-Mac laid it out very, very well. I mean, that first gauntlet makes you wonder who they upset in the league office. Howard Katz does the schedule, is supposed to be retiring. This is not a retirement gift that he gave the Giants. They must not have given him the right, lazy boy or whatever gift. But here's the thing. Remember the first year, B-Mac, that Brian Daboll took over, and that roster just wasn't very good? Somehow they managed to get to the playoffs. I'm not suggesting they're going to the playoffs, okay? I'm not there, all right? But what Brian Daboll brings to the table is competitiveness, is competition, is fighting through adversity, getting off the deck and doing things. Look, Mr. Mara said it best. His patience is awfully thin. We know that. I don't know that he meant they have to go to the playoffs when he looks at the roster and what they're doing, but I think he expects them to be competitive. And that's what's going to be the key to me, especially as you pointed out, in those first 3 or 4 games. I mean, 2 divisional games and in Kansas City on Sunday Night Football. You can't just be 0-3. It has to be a good 0-3. All right? And that's what Daboll's going to bring to the table, and that's what he's going to present to his team, although he won't say anything about being a good 0-3. He'll be talking about how they have to win these games. But the rest of us, I think we're being realistic. Can you come out of that looking like a team that has a chance to be improved?
Patience being the operative word there for the young quarterback as well, sitting behind 2 veterans. And if it does get noisy and things get tough, you're going to have a fan base that wants to see what could be the quarterback of the future. Second toughest strength of schedule based off of last year's opponent's win percentage, the Charter franchise. Fellas, you know where my heart is. I've fallen victim to excitement many a time before, but we're coming in more measured this year, that I promise. What do you see, CD, when you look at the cadence of Chicago's schedule?
I see them, there's plenty of percussion, early in it, right? Minnesota on Monday Night Football, the Detroit Lions on the road, Dallas in Game 3. B-Mac talked about a gauntlet for the Giants, about the Bears right out of the gate. But then you're talking about how the beats of the season goes. How about at Washington? Then 2 weeks later, you get the Ravens and the Bengals back-to-back. Then you go down into 12, and week 11, you get the Vikings at Minnesota, and then you get Pittsburgh at home. And then you get Black Friday against the Eagles. How about those 3 in a row? Oh, well, you feel good about that? Guess what? You're at Green Bay week 14. So 4 in a row now that we're talking about massive games, massive implications. Joe, I'm glad that you have that, that you've tempered things. I think your roster is better this year. I think Ryan Poles has won the offseason in a big way in Chicago, both in free agency and in the draft. He won the sweepstakes in getting Ben Johnson as the head coach. Now can they put it all together? Because there were high hopes last year, as you pointed out. I don't see any reason not to have high hopes for this year, but we got to see if the Ben Johnson magic takes hold early and if Caleb Williams is able to make that jump under new direction.
And see, the last name you mentioned, Caleb Williams, I'm going to focus my attention, my statement on Caleb Williams, because this puts more pressure on Caleb Williams. No, the schedule is very, very tough. But the last time I checked in the NFL, there's no easy out anyway. For you to get to an opportunity to hoist a Sticky Lombardi, you're going to have to fight for it. You're going to have to earn it.
There's no easy route.
Yes.
When you look at the toughest schedule to the easiest schedule, the disparity is about 10 percentage points.
Yes.
Everybody's good in this league.
And the thing about this schedule for Chicago, it's ugly. But you get an opportunity to identify who you are week 1 and week 2. If they're able to take care of their business, they're 2-0, but they're 2-0 in the division as well. That's very, very important. And to your point, CD, this roster is much improved from what we witnessed a year ago. This coaching staff is better than what we saw a year ago as well, along with your quarterback having a year of experience in his career. So this puts a lot of pressure on Caleb Williams because you talked about the most coveted offensive name. It's been Ben Johnson over the last 3 years. And you were able to land him to be your head coach to work hand in hand with your quarterback and the entire offense. You got to find a way to get it done, regardless of how it looks. The last time I checked in the NFL, no one cares about the labor pains. You still got to deliver the baby.
I think that you make a great point there about the quarterback, one who I see as maniacally committed to greatness and trying to achieve it. He's going to have plenty of opportunities to prove it this season when you look at that Bears schedule, the second toughest in the NFL. The Lions tied for the Bears with second toughest. Obviously, they share divisional schedule, and the crossover comes with the NFC East, the AFC North. Game 17 comes against the NFC West. Mac, I've asked you the question, so I'm going CD first here. When you look at the Lions and the way they're constructed this year, personnel's still fantastic, but how do you assess all the scheme that walked out of the door?
Yeah, that's always a difficult part of it, but I do believe that with Dan Campbell as a head coach, part of what he did in replacing these coordinators is making sure scheme stayed in place. John Morton is taking over for Ben Johnson. The difference is, will he have the same wizardry in calling plays and figuring out situations and being 2 or 3 jumps ahead, similar to Kyle Shanahan in his prime, right? When those guys are scheming at their best, good luck, defensive coordinators. Then flip it over to the defensive side. Aaron Glenn goes to New York to take over the Jets, but he just elevates within. Kelvin Shepard, former NFL linebacker, has been with the Lions for a while, has been absorbing all of this. Scheme change is not going to be that much of a difference for the players. There'll be the tweaks of the individual coaches, likes, dislikes, that sort of thing, what they may lean on as the season goes on. But the players don't have to learn anything different. And B-Mac, when I look at the Lions schedule, isn't it fun to see all those parentheses after games, meaning Sunday night football, Thursday night football, Monday night football, Christmas, Thanksgiving. We're talking marquee games all the way through. The Detroit Lions, remember, it wasn't that long ago their marquee game was, hey, we get to host a Thanksgiving game every single year.
That was it.
And that was all she wrote, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, see you down the road. Now, it's big games all the time. And fortunately for them, they've had to start doing this over the last couple of years. So similar to all the best teams in the league, they're not worried that their routine is disrupted. They understand how to play to a routine that is uneven throughout the season. You're not playing every week Sunday at 1.
And the thing about what Dan Campbell has built there in Detroit, they have embraced the attention that has come with them winning, and they understand what's at stake for them. And you made key points about what Dan Campbell decided to do when he lost both coordinators. He promoted from within. The individuals that he brought up, they understand the Detroit Lion way. They understand how to go about their business on either side of the football field. The only thing that I'm watching to see, you talked about the wizardry that we saw with Ben Johnson. When will we see some of the the extras that made Detroit such a fun team to watch on the offensive side.
You want Penei Sewell throwing the rock on the outside?
The tackle screens and things like that, because that added a pizzazz to their offense that made it difficult for defenders to prepare for them. And not to mention the aggressive nature that we saw with Aaron Glenn calling plays on the defensive side as well. But the most important thing, though, the identity is still there, the DNA, football DNA is still there, and the personnel, because this is still a very, very talented roster, especially on the offensive side of the football field.
And you get Hutch
Hey,
back.
Joe, before you go on, let me just jump in there because B-Mac hit it. When are we going to see the extras? Well, maybe if Dan Campbell adds a third venti coffee with 3 shots of espresso, because he does 2 every morning. If he adds a third one in, he may very well turn to his coordinators and give me the old Siwash special and let's go get it. So let's find out.
The triple red eye, I believe that would be. We'll see how it works in the AM and throughout the season for Dan Campbell. Just a third time in the last 15 years that a team has lost both coordinators to head coaching jobs. The previous 2 wild card round bow-outs, likely more correlation than causation, but something certainly to keep an eye on. The Eagles, meantime, have the 4th hardest schedule in the NFL, going to be the first team in NFL history with 10 games against playoff teams from the previous season. 7 of those 10 come on the road. Mac, any issue here, or still biggest bully on the block, favorite in every game?
Yeah, this was expected. You know, anytime you win the championship, clearly you're going to have a very, very difficult schedule based on the success you had the year before. And for the Philadelphia Eagles, one thing they really have to adapt to extremely fast. Yes, their schedule is very, very difficult based on the percentages. But every time you step on the football field, because you were able to hoist the sticky Lombardi, you're getting the opposing team's best effort, because they all had to watch you hoist the sticky Lombardi in New Orleans. So that makes the game for them bigger. So that target that you already had on your back and your chest is bigger, and you have to go about that mindset, with that mindset week in and week out. But once again, when you look at this roster, CD, Joe, name me a more talented roster. I mean, yes, they lost a few pieces, but they've added as well, along with some of the other moves that they made via the draft, because the draft was, for them, was a bang-bang. Howie did another masterful job in adding talent through the draft, and that's the most unique thing about this team. When you look at some of the free agents, no question, Saquon Barkley was a big-time addition. You traded for A.J. Brown. But look at the homegrown players they drafted in the organization. They've been able to develop, and they've gotten the most out of those said players. It's no surprise about the success that we've seen from Philadelphia. And as long as they continue to have that talent on the football field along with the coaching, they're going to be in good shape.
Health was on their side. Health is the thing that will keep them on the rails, and can be said for all 32, but this Philadelphia team built to keep on running. We're going to run further as well. Straight ahead, nothing comes easy in the NFL, but they'll take any help they can get. We assess the softest schedules next on HQ. Back on CBS Sports HQ, schedules are released, and we're looking at the flip side of that difficulty coin, your easiest schedules in the season to come. Mac, what was the easiest football game you ever played in?
I'm still waiting on that one.
Exactly the point here. It is a difficult game played by hard men. These 4 teams filled with all sorts of talent will have the easiest road to their eventual playoffs. Playoffs not made for everybody. The Niners certainly underperformed to expectation a year ago. Bryant, McFadden, and Charles Davis here to offer their thoughts. The Niners are reworking that identity a little bit. The household names that we've come to know and love that got so close to Super Bowl attaining that long-term goal, some of them are not there anymore, Mac. What does this schedule mean as they try and find themselves in that identity this season?
Well, it means a lot for San Francisco, because the issue for San Francisco a year ago was more about the injury bug, right? Health. Health played a big part in them not being as successful as we thought they would be based on the returning talent they had on the team along with the coaching. But when you look at this schedule, and I understand based on the percentages, it's one of the easier schedules. But if you're San Francisco, if they can stay healthy, Joe, starting with some of their prime time players.
If he can stay healthy, exactly.
Yeah. And Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, getting Brandon Ayuk back, if they can stay healthy, I mean, they have an opportunity, CD, to be one of those teams that we've seen in years past finish from worst to first when you look at the year before and then, of course, the current season. But it's all about health for them. And you look at the way how they get the schedule rolling, that's a great opportunity to send a sign to the NFL world. We're back. You have your quarterback back in place. Hopefully he will have a new deal. But having a healthy Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams, those two individuals, in my opinion, they're two of the most important players when you look at non-quarterback positions on the offensive side and the defensive side. So hopefully having those two guys back, along with what they're saying is one of the easier schedules, can actually help get things started in the right direction compared to what we did not see in 2024.
And B-Mac, following along what you're talking about, we've showed 4 teams to start off with the 4 easiest schedules, right? Out of those 4, right now, sitting here today, it feels like only one of them really has a chance to get right and really be a playoff team. All right, that's kind of how it looks now. We know how this can change. And to your point about worst to first, I believe 19 of the last 21 seasons, we've had at least one team go from worst to first. Do you know that last year we didn't have that? So we're due. So could it be San Francisco? To your point about how their schedule is shaped up with the expectations of this team, if they get healthy and we think they're going to be, the quarterback gets his contract, those first 4 games seem crucial to me. Come out of the gate, get right, win those first 4. And then after that, you know what happens, B-Mac, in terms of momentum. And you say you've never played an easy game. Don't tell me that. You jumped on somebody in high school. You couldn't wait. And by the way, you told your backups all week, make sure you're ready to go because we'll be out early in this one, okay? So you'll get to play. But San Francisco's trying their best to get out of the gate strong and announce that, hey, we're back and we want to compete with the Rams. We want to compete with Seattle and an ascending Arizona team.
And to your point, CD, about the first 4 games for San Francisco, it's safe to say, as we see it right now, guys, they will be the favorites going into those first 4 ball games. Starting off with Seattle, that's the new Sam Darnold era with Mike McDonald in year 2. But I would say, if I had to throw my opinion out, San Francisco probably would be the favorites. The same can be said for the Saints and everything that they have going on with the turnover. Maybe that wild card could be Arizona week 3. Clearly, they should be the favorites week 4 against Jacksonville. So that's a great 4-game start potentially for San Francisco if, number one, they're healthy and they take care of their business.
It's always an interesting team, and the leadership there is long-standing. We'll see if they can turn it around in a short amount of time. Mac, we saw the rivals ratings. He's still on the top-rated cornerbacks of all time. So there were 8? Did Travis Hunter bump you down to 8?
Yeah, Travis brought me down to 8.
There were some easy games in there, CD, to your point. We're going to move right to number 3 because number 2 is represented by the New Orleans Saints, and I'm not going to make you fellas do that. So let's keep it rolling here to the New England Patriots, the 3rd most friendly schedule. AFC team with the easiest schedule has finished with a winning record every year since the league expanded to 17 games. So again, I'm not sure if that indicates what's to come here for this team that added on the left side to protect the franchise quarterback and has a new head coach. Total sum of the parts, Mac, applied to this schedule, you see what?
Man, I see a competitive team. Number one, I respect their head coach and Mike Vrabel. I feel like he should have never been let go by Tennessee, but of course, others felt differently. But when you look at what he's done in the National Football League, being able to get more from less in terms of rosters, this is a team in terms of the offseason regimen. They won free agency, they won the draft. This team is more talented than what we saw a year ago, and I do believe we will see Drake May take that step in the right direction in terms of development and being more consistent. But everything that is surrounding Drake May on the offensive side is better, and the same can be said defensively as well. They had the most money in terms of cap money available, and they spent wisely. They did a great job identifying ways to improve their team in the draft, and now seeing this schedule, especially the first game is at home. And one thing about New England over the last few years, especially a year ago, week 1, they oftentimes will surprise you. Remember what they did to Cincinnati? Gave them a black eye week 1, surprised everyone. Now, if you're able to get the Raiders, a team that has a new coaching regime in place, along with new members as well, you have to like that makeup to start the season off for the New England Patriots, along with year 2 with Drake May being your starting quarterback.
Agreed on all points, and Mike Vrabel talked about winning the offseason in terms of free agency, and they did that pretty well in terms of names that they got added to the defensive side of the ball. That's where they really won. Offensive side, they had to find playmakers. As you know, B-Mac, they haven't had anyone to scare anyone on offense. And this is no disrespect to anyone, but I don't know that there's a defense coordinator over the last 3 to 4 seasons that lost a night's sleep worried about what New England could do to them. Did they respect what they could do? Yes. Were they fearful? No. And in this league, if you don't have guys that scare you, then you can forget it. That means you're going to be in every game. You mentioned the Cincinnati opener last year. They ran through them, right? Beat Cincinnati in the opener. Cincinnati was terrible that day and still had a chance. Okay, so New England wasn't going to run away and hide from you. But I love what Mike Vrabel brings to the table. To me, their season comes down to offensive line, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line. They were abysmal last year. Can that offensive line be improved enough to help Drake May and their new playmakers on offense?
Gave up one of the worst rush rates in the league last season, and Will Campbell was the early selection there at 4. I love the conviction he speaks with at 21 years old, and you also love when the head coach has already given him pass rep looks. You see, they're physical already in New England. We'll see what it looks like when we add it all up. Cam Ward and the Titans have been alluded to here, the top overall pick and the first quarterback obviously selected in this most recent draft. They have the 4th easiest schedule, but CD, we know how fate sort of works against rookie quarterbacks, and the story that's been told over the history of this league, the growing pains, the learning crucible that he will be in. When you look at Cam Ward and all that needs to change in Tennessee, what does this schedule do for the young man?
Well, I mean, look, you're going to Denver in the rare era to begin with a second quarterback who had a fantastic first season in Bo Nix. That's not a great opener, as you would think, going on the road like that. Here come the Rams week 2, Colts, and so on and so forth. But let's move past the schedule. This is Brian Callahan's second year as the head coach there. I love the fact that they resisted the urge to make a ton of changes, B-Mac, on his coaching staff because they didn't have a great year. I think sometimes that happens with young coaches or their first time. But you can see the experience that Brian Callahan, having grown up in the game, his father, Bills, had great experience coaching in this league. He was there for the council. He was consigliere for him. And guess what? He didn't make a ton of wholesale changes. That way the continuity stays there, teaching the guys that they have coming back. Getting Cam Ward as the new face of the franchise, this isn't just for this year, guys. They opened a new stadium, I think, in 2 seasons. They hope to have him established and hope that he's their new Steve McNair when that new stadium opens, and they can have plenty of hope down the road. But remember this is well the weird part. And B-Mac, you talked about opening day being strange for everyone. The last time the Titans had a rookie quarterback that started week 1, it was Marcus Mariota. Do you know what he did week 1? He threw 4 touchdown passes and the Titans won. Can Cam Ward recreate Marcus Mariota's week 1 rookie season? Now, wouldn't that be one for the books?
No question. I don't remember exactly who Marcus played against his first game where he threw 4 touchdowns, but I highly doubt it was the defense that Cam Ward is going to see in week 1 against the Denver Broncos, because when you look at what Denver did last year defensively, CD, they were a very, very stout unit in terms of putting pressure on opposing quarterbacks and having sound coverage in the back end. So this is a great test for Cam Ward week 1, knowing that he's going to face off against one of the high-level defenses that we saw in 2024. But I want to focus more of my attention on Brian Callahan. Brian Callahan had an opportunity to become the head coach for Tennessee because of what he did with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, working hands-on with their offense, working hands-on with the quarterback. Well, we kind of gave Brian Callahan guys a pass because Will Levis wasn't his guy. He inherited Will Levis, but it didn't work out. Okay, that wasn't his guy. You had an opportunity, Brian Callahan, to do your due diligence, to study every quarterback that was available for this draft, and you picked the guy that you love. You picked the guy that had a talent that fits your coaching method. Now let's see exactly what you can do. And if you're Cam Ward, you're coming into a situation where the organization needs you. But you don't have to go out and play hero ball week in and week out. Because if that is the mentality for a young quarterback, he's going to struggle. Allow the others that are surrounding you to do what they've been paid to do as well, which is make plays. But this is a lot, for me, this puts more pressure on Brian Callahan because it didn't work out with Will Levis. Well, it's a pass. That wasn't his guy. For Cam Ward, this is your guy. So we expect to see growth and development similar to what we saw with Drake May in New England compared to how he started the season and how he finished, because we saw growth with Drake May. The same can be said for Cam Ward. That's the expectations, in my opinion.
It's the Buccaneers at Raymond James Stadium, a matchup of the top 2 picks in the 2015 draft.
Okay.
Jameis and Mariota, round 1 there went to Mariota. A perfect passer rating in his NFL debut, which goes to show let's not overreact to anything we see, even the schedules. Charles Davis, Bryant, McFadden, appreciation as always, gentlemen, as we move our party along and we take things on the road. We're talking travel. LA charged as frequent flyers, but what might that mean for their playoff hopes? We go there next.